first episode of Ask Anagen. And if you're wondering what that is, we're going to start it out by giving you a little bit of pretense to what we're going to be doing and offering to you guys. The whole reason that we're doing this show is just to field in both questions from our clients as well as other stylists to anything related to our industry, whether it be hair, makeup, bridal, skincare, or beauty. So with that being said, our intent is just to share our knowledge and any education that we can per a topic that you're wondering. So we hope it's really, really beneficial, and if you get something out of it, don't forget to share. So, for our first ever question,
we have Chloe asking, I want to go blonde, I'm not sure what to expect, what are the services, and what kind of prep do I need to do? So we're going to answer Chloe's question. The first part I think is important is to talk about the prep for hair. Beyond the service you want, we want to make sure the hair is in really, really great condition, correct?
Yep.
So not just the service, but products to take home right away first.
Correct, yep.
I think that's a really great starting point on blondes, because when you do go through a blonding service, it can be, I hate the word damaging, but you're taking a lot out when you blonde. You're lightening, so you have to take a lot of color and proteins and everything that makes the hair feel beautiful, you have to take that out of there. So we want to definitely prep the hair so it stays beautiful throughout the entire service.
Absolutely, because really with so many people, blonde can be looked at from so many different tonalities, and depending on what your hair's internal structure is, that really is going to give us our starting pace for how light we're going to bring you per the direction that we want to take your look. And really at the end of the day, I think we're way more committed to giving you a healthy looking blonde versus that bright blonde just because you want that, but it actually makes your look not quite correct or as strong as what we could have it be.
Exactly. I think being blonde, you need to feel pretty too, not just visually. Because if someone's like, your color is awesome, but I definitely don't ever want my hair to feel like that, that's why we do the prep before all of our services.
Absolutely. And I think, Chloe's question is so good because today, really, there's never been more options for lifting. The services that we have out there and the products that we have to package with that, just Olaplex. Olaplex hasn't even been out for 18 months, and that's completely changed the way that we blonde. So for you, Mark, when you look at right now and we're seeing a lot of lifting going on this spring, what are those services basically?
There's, like he had just mentioned, so many options for blonding services right now. I think it comes down to, and stylists will understand this, timing. So the whole full head of highlights isn't really the thing anymore, right? As a stylist, for a customer or a client coming in, they may have seen something like that on there, but there are ways to achieve that look now. So one of my favorite services right now is the balayage, the painting the highlight in the hair.
So fantastic.
And it doesn't have to necessarily be that balayage or the ombre look. You could look like you did a whole full head of highlights.
Right.
For sure, right?
Right.
So there's quicker ways to create the kind of beauty you want. From the ombre, which everyone's loving right now. I don't think it's a trend anymore. I think it's going to stay around as a technique and something that everyone loves.
Totally.
There's partial highlights for women and men that want just a little bit of a sunspot. You know what I mean? To brighten it up just here and there. And of course, there's the balayage technique, which kind of encompasses everything.
Right. And that's where I think, depending on all things of face shape, the structure of your hair, the condition of it, the length of it, all those things, we've never had more options to create that blonde look and do it in a way that's friendly to your budget, because that's one thing that I think it's really, really important as a stylist that a person understands that when you blonde, we're typically taking you higher than what your natural pigment is that you grow, right?
Yes.
So in that, we are going to, in a natural way, create an upkeep project, right? And it's really the difference between a good consultation on blonding on whether we create an upkeep monster that you feel you have to be in the salon every 3 weeks, or is it a look that we have multiple services that we do, so we're always keeping it fresh, but not hitting your pocketbook necessarily so hard. I think that's one of the points you really have to get across on what is your blonde budget, right?
For sure, and I think the two options you kind of just described are super important to talk about as a stylist, because upkeep is some of the biggest downfalls that people give to us. I don't want to come in every 8 weeks for my hair. Well, there's options now, and of course, healthier ways to do it with your budget, which I totally agree on. And when you do consult, it is full-blown conversation, lots of questions, and lots of information given to them, and letting them understand it too, and like soak it in a little bit.
Right.
And also to let them know that you might not be that bright of a blonde the first time you get in, going back to the idea that we want beautiful hair after our blonde service. So extending that, it might happen in 3 options, or in 2, you know what I mean? Let them know from the get-go, can you achieve it today? Maybe not, be honest.
Right, and I think that's going to give Chloe a good idea to hopefully how to move forward with her blending process. One thing that I think it's also worth us to talk about is, and I think it's important because I really feel that blonde this year's blonde is, in my opinion, so much different than what we saw last year in blonde, right? And if I could say one thing, I think that we're still going to see a ton of like gray blondes rolling around. Like that's naturally going to be a thing because again, we're seeing trend to be happening in a little bit different way right now. But I would say that, in my opinion, this year's blonde, and a lot that we've been doing in Salon, is taking it to the level of where you could see white to be, but it's removing that extra bit of coolness. So it's definitely a refined tone. I wouldn't call it warm, nor would I call it cool. It really has kind of an iridescent feel to it, but it's still a very, very rich tone. And you know, right now, I think again, like the timing of it is just fantastic because our color companies that we work with, they're really coming out with tones right now that are just fantastic for this look. So for you, Mark, I mean, what's your take to blonde this year?
Blondes this year is like fashion, kind of anything goes, right? In hair and in fashion, they mirror each other. But blondes right now, what we're seeing in Salon are everyday hair, correct?
Yep.
We see those grays, we see those like strawberry blondes, we see those, what's that, rose gold blondes and stuff like that. Those are for special people. That's not for everybody.
Right.
So the beautiful blondes he's talking about are everyday, luxe, high-end looking hair blondes that we see here, that great neutral blonde. It is beyond beautiful. We have a couple options that we can show, and just the right blends
Right.
of the blondes even.
And I think you hit on a really, really good point there, Mark. I'd like to go a little bit deeper into I loved what you said about how these specialty blondes, if we want to call them that, you know, they're definitely, we're totally finding out that, you know, for that person that wants that gray blonde, you have to have a pretty light natural starting level, 1. 2, you have to have pretty, it really needs to be healthy hair to start with, right? So the thing that's really interesting about right now's blondes, in the sense of like all of these specialty areas, are that you really have to have the right skin tone as well as integrity of your hair to go that direction, right?
For sure, skin tone and integrity of hair are so important to going that high. And a lot of clients don't understand that. They think, I'm gonna get that and it's gonna be awesome. You can get that. Is it gonna feel awesome? Maybe not, because if you're my color hair and you wanna go to, we need to get you beyond white, like no pigment in the hair at all, and then deposit that silver gray,
Right.
your hair is not gonna feel great. Are there ways to make it feel great? For sure, but in the end, growing that out isn't gonna feel the best. In the end, honesty is key, and I'm gonna be very honest right now, you're gonna wanna cut most of it off afterwards.
Right.
At my level.
Right.
But if you're a level of like a 7-8 blonde, to our stylists who understand that, but for clients who understand that, like that ashy kind of blonde, ashy gray blonde, that's a perfect starting level that we can get you there and still feel super great. But down lower, 5 and below, it's gonna take a lot of work, and in the end, your hair is just not gonna feel awesome.
Totally. So I think that in that sense, Chloe, you should definitely have enough to start rolling with your idea of blonding. The one thing I think is super important though, on the very back side of it though, is to talk quickly about, again, it's not just getting there, it goes into the aftercare part. And we're finding so many things, and one thing I'd like to hit on that's just natural to everyone that isn't really a product that you purchase, but the integrity of your water. If you're someone that you've always like, oh, you know, I'm always trying to get to this like non-brassy blonde or this blonde that doesn't have warmth to it, and your stylist is just continually not getting you there, it might actually be your water, because one of the things that goes on within that idea on the aftercare side is if you want that really refined blonde, you might need to look into things like we have at the shower head water filters. That's one option. We have a ton of products right now also, like, you know, the toning conditioning side. I think that we have, I would say though, for aftercare, product wise, what is your favorite right now?
I have a combination that I'm super obsessed with. Touching on the Olaplex take-home product, I think is super important as just a bit of a mask.
Right.
The many blondes I've been doing lately, they do not leave without one. They take that home, and the feedback has been awesome, because if they even want to go brighter afterwards or make a cool change, I confidently know that their hair is in a great place integrity-wise. That paired with Pureology's Color Fanatic, I think is awesome. It's a leave-in conditioner spray, so it's not going to let a lot of weight. It's easy to get through the hair, it smells pretty, and it does a lot of great work in terms of reparative structure to it.
Totally, it's a really powerful product. I think, and the last thing there is, it goes into the place of just making sure that you have a good protein-based shampoo. I know that like we roll typically within the Caviar's recovery line for that. That's tried and true product, really, really strong, but basically, not because we're trying to sell product here, any line that's going to be giving you protein or moisture and or the both of them back into the hair is going to be a fantastic move for you, Chloe. Cool.
Enjoy being blonde.
Yeah, have fun with that, Chloe. So then, on our last question for this first episode, Courtney wrote in, by the sound of it, I've never seen Courtney before, but I'm going to imagine that she has really, really, really thick, frizzy hair, because her question was all in caps, saying, we're going back into summer, humidity, exclamation point, help my hair. So, Courtney, just with that context, if I can go a little bit forward with it, one thing that's totally worth talking about again is going to be on the water side of it. If you have very, very hard water going onto your already curly, dry, and frizzy hair, that's only going to make those two things worse. So that would be one place that I'd start from. But really on the other side of it, going to your stylist, talking to them about what products you're using, always making sure right now we're finding that creams are much better side of how to style your hair curly versus a gel. And really just being the difference between something that's going to be giving oil versus giving alcohol. As a gel will give more alcohol off, which is going to dry out the hair. Your cream is going to add more moisture there. So Courtney, I think that two areas there that we'd be able to move forward as far as helping you with your humidity issue.
So one thing I want to kind of touch on when it comes to the humidity and the type of hair she has, not a lot of people understand that washing curly hair is different from washing straight hair. When it comes to curly hair, you really, really want to take care of it right from the get-go. Chris talked about the shower head. The next step is going to be exactly how you put your hands into it. You can't scrub, you can't zhuzh it like this. It's more of a raking motion through your hair. And the reason for that is when you do this in the shower with your hands, or even out of the shower when you're drying, you're disturbing the cuticle on the hair. And what the cuticle is on the hair quickly is it's layered like shingles. So when you rub against them, they start spreading open, and that's where we see frizz right away. So to prevent that, rake through the hair, starting at your ends, and then going through creating clean tracks for that hair to get through, and keep doing that for your shampoo and your conditioner. Condition from the bottom to the top. This stuff doesn't need it as much. Again, continuing to rake. And then after you rinse everything out, when you get out of the shower, it's a squeezing process. It's not a rub, rub, rub.
Right. This
is for curly girls. This isn't for straight girl hairs. It is curly girl only. Squeeze it out. It will take you a little longer. You were blessed with amazing texture that us straight haired people want, but there's a little more work that goes into it.
Absolutely, and there was one thing that I took away from a class we recently took down in Chicago, and it was just basically the idea, for the curly haired peeps, try having two towels. You can have one that is a little bit more of a coarse cotton, depending on if you want to use that for your body, but really on your hair, try and go for more of a microfiber. Another one that we were even told was use your old t-shirts, because really again, with curly hair, think of it like a fabric, and it's a coarse fabric. So the more that you're going across it, you're just going to be making things tangle and snarl more, whereas more of your microfiber or that really fine knit cotton is going to help you out a lot more in the way of not creating frizz before you're dry. One other area too is don't forget that your blow dryer has a cold button. That's really there for a purpose that, one, helps set the hair after we've used a little bit of heat. And really on that cold button, it's going to help smooth the cuticle more so that when you jump outside and we're going back into like 80 and 90% humidity days, that the hair doesn't just all go right back out because the cuticle wasn't set correctly. So don't forget about the cold button, Courtney. Wow, that went quick.
That was awesome.
Cool. So, a couple things real fast. We're doing this for the reason of being able to just answer your questions that you have per anything that's involved within what we do here at Anagen. And with that being said, episode 1 is in the books.
Yes! That was really great. Thank you so much.